Lauren asked for a divorce like she was reading lines off a card, eyes drifting to her buzzing phone between sentences. I didn't panic, so whatever plan was feeding her words started to crack. The chicken was still hot, steam curling up off the plate like nothing in my life was shifting. Lauren sat across from me in that neat posture she used for polite company. Back straight, shoulders set, chin lifted. She didn't touch her food. Her phone lay beside her fork, face up, like a fifth person at the table. "I've been thinking," she said, and even the pause was measured. "I want a divorce." No shaking breath, no trembling, no mess. Just a clean sentence delivered in the same voice she used to ask if we needed more paper towels. Her phone buzzed. A quick vibration, then another. She didn't look at it right away, which made it worse. Like she was proving she could resist, like that mattered. I chewed, swallowed, set my fork down with the same care I'd used to pick it up. "Okay," I said. That single word hit the room like a door shutting. Her eyes widened a fraction, then tightened. She was expecting something else. Protest, a speech, a scramble, the kind of frantic performance that makes someone feel powerful for daring to detonate your life. Her phone buzzed again. This time she glanced at it fast. Too fast. Then looked back at me like she'd been caught taking direction. "You're not going to ask why?" she said. "I heard you," I replied. "Divorce. That's clear." The phone lit up with a notification. Screen flashing a name I didn't fully catch before she flipped it over. Her hand moved like a reflex, like she'd done it before. I studied her face, not the words. The timing, the rhythm, the way she held the silence just a second too long, like she was waiting for a cue to keep going. "You're being weirdly calm," she said, and the sentence came out sharper than she meant. I nodded once. "I'm listening." That was true, just not in the way she wanted. I wasn't listening for emotion. I was listening for structure, what she'd rehearsed, what she'd been coached to say, what she expected me to do so she could respond the way she'd practiced. Another buzz, another flicker of her eyes, another tiny fracture in the mask. This wasn't a private moment between husband and wife. Not the way she was treating it. There was an audience somewhere, watching through that phone, waiting for my reaction to feed their little play. Lauren leaned forward, like she could force the scene back onto its rails. "Say something," she pressed. I met her stare and kept my voice even. "Tell me what you've already decided." And for the first time since she started, she looked unsure. Not hurt, not sad, just off balance, like the script in her head had skipped a line. Lauren exhaled like she was annoyed I wasn't cooperating. "Tell me what you're thinking," she said, and tried to soften it into concern. "Because right now you're acting like you don't care." I picked up my water, took a slow drink, and set it down. Let the silence sit. Let her feel it. "I'm thinking you've rehearsed this," I said. Her mouth opened, then closed. Quick blink, too tight. She was offended, but not because it wasn't true, because I'd named it. "That's not," she started. Her phone buzzed again. She reached for it without looking, thumb sliding across the screen like muscle memory. The screen flashed bright enough that I caught it this time. Haley Benson, yoga friend, smiling selfies, affirmation quotes, the kind of woman who talked about energy while stirring trouble like it was community service. Lauren flipped the phone face down again, but it was too late. The audience had a name now. "Is she watching?" I asked. "What?" Lauren's voice went high and thin. "Haley," I said. "Is she getting play-by-play?" Her eyes darted, not to me, but to the phone, like it could answer for her. The smallest tell in the world. The kind you only notice when you're not busy panicking. "Don't drag my friends into this," she snapped. "I'm not dragging them," I said. "You brought them. With that thing." I nodded at the phone. "You can't stop looking at it." She pushed her plate away like she'd lost her appetite on command. "You're making this into something it's not." I leaned back, shoulders loose, calm on purpose now. Not numb, not stunned, just steady. "No," I said. "I'm keeping it simple. You said you want a divorce. That's a decision. So let's talk about logistics." "Logistics?" She stared like I'd spoken another language. House. Counts. Timeline. Who leaves, who stays? I said. If you're serious, we can be adults and handle it clean. Her face tightened again. There it was, the problem. I wasn't giving her the fight. I wasn't pleading or asking what I did wrong. I wasn't clinging to the image of us like a man afraid to be alone. She needed me desperately so she could feel justified. She needed me to be emotional so she could frame it later. She needed a performance. I thought you'd at least react, she said, and she hated herself for saying it. I nodded like I just confirmed the weather. That's what you expected. I expected my husband to care, she shot back. I care, I said. That's why I'm not yelling. I'm not giving you a show. Her phone buzzed again. Longer this time. 2 vibrations back to back. Lauren's eyes flicked down like a dog hearing a whistle. I watched her, watched the way she tried to hold her expression still while her body betrayed her. The table, the food, the quiet kitchen light. Everything was normal except her, like she was waiting for a director to tell her the next line. I realized something then, clear as a bell. This wasn't just a breakup. It was a setup. And I was done playing the role of a confused husband in somebody else's little group chat. Go ahead, I said, voice flat. Tell them I'm calm. Lauren stiffened. Tell who? I held her gaze until she looked away. That's what I thought. Lauren sat back, like she was trying to regain control by creating distance. You're acting like you're above this, she said. Like none of it matters. I looked at her hands. The way her fingers kept finding the edge of her phone, dragging it a centimeter closer, then stopping, like she was afraid of being caught needing it. It matters, I said, just not in the way you planned. Her brows pulled together. What does that mean? I let a beat pass, long enough for her to hear the refrigerator hum, long enough for her to feel the quiet she'd tried to weaponize. It means you picked a convenient night, I said, because it saves me the trouble of bringing it up. Lauren froze. Not the scripted kind, no practice gasp, no prepared denial. This was real stillness. Bringing what up? She asked, slow. I kept my tone level. You and your boss. Her face changed instantly. Color draining, eyes widening, lips parting like the air got thin. It wasn't dramatic. It was worse, automatic. Don't, she said. One word, barely a voice. So there it was. No confusion. No, what are you talking about? Just a reflexive plea to stop. I nodded once. That's what I figured. Her phone buzzed. Hard. A string of notifications, one after another, like the people on the other end sensed the shift. Lauren's eyes dropped to the screen before she could stop herself. She snatched it up, thumb moving fast, scrolling. Her breathing changed shorter, quicker. I didn't ask to see it. I didn't need to. The panic told me enough. You're insane, she said. But it came out weak, like she didn't believe it. I'm not, I said. And you're not as careful as you think. She swallowed. Her throat moved like she was forcing down 1,000 words. Who told you that? I watched her try to assemble a story on the fly. Her mind was working, calculating angles, deciding what lie to serve first. The rehearsed divorce is gone now. This was her without a script. Megan, I said. Her face twitched. A small flinch, like I'd hit a bruise. Megan Price showed me, I continued. Weeks ago. Lauren shook her head immediately. Too fast. She's lying. I tilted my head slightly. You sure you want to go with that? Her phone buzzed again. She glanced down and I saw it. The way her eyes widened at whatever she was reading. She was trapped between 2 worlds now. The one her friends were feeding her and the one sitting across the table refusing to be handled. You don't have proof, she said, but it sounded like a question. I nodded toward the phone. Funny, you're getting a lot of messages for someone who thinks there's nothing to worry about. She clenched her jaw. This is none of their business. And yet, I said, they're here. Lauren stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time, like she'd expected a soft man she could steer with tears and tension. Instead, she got someone calm enough to name the truth without blinking. I'm not doing this with you, she said, trying to stand. I stayed seated. Sit down. The command wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. She hesitated, actually hesitated, then sat again, slower. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just said the last part, clean and simple. I've seen the messages, I told her. So if you want out, fine. But don't pretend this is some sudden, noble realization you came up with over dinner. Her phone erupted, 3 quick buzzes in a row. Lauren stared at the screen like it was a lifeline and a threat at the same time. For the first time all night, her eyes looked wet. Not from pain, from fear. Lauren's shoulders sagged like the strength drained out of them all at once. Her eyes stayed on the table, not because she was ashamed, because she was trying to find a way out that didn't exist. Okay, she said, voice thin. Just, okay. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't even check it this time. She just stared at it like it had betrayed her. I waited. She rubbed her palms on her thighs, a nervous habit I'd seen before, usually right before she lied. It wasn't supposed to go like this, she said. I gave her nothing. No, what do you mean? No gentle opening. If she wanted to talk, she could do it without me holding her hand. Lauren exhaled, shaky. It was a thing. A thing, I repeated flat. She flinched at my tone. A test. I held eye contact. Say it properly. Her throat bobbed. A loyalty test. There it was. The stupidest phrase in the world, said like it was normal, like it belonged in a marriage the way bills and birthdays belonged. A divorce loyalty test, I said. You faked a divorce to see if I'd fight for you. Lauren's eyes filled fast. The tears finally real now that the performance had failed. Haley said. I lifted a hand, not aggressive, just a stop sign. Don't start with Haley. She didn't mean. Lauren. I kept my voice steady. You're not a passenger in your own life. Don't talk like one. She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. They said it would show me how much you care. That if you really loved me, you'd do something. Beg. Stop me. Prove it. I nodded slowly, like I was lining up the pieces on a table. The rehearsed tone, I said. The perfect timing. The phone face up. The constant buzzing. You looked down like you were waiting for your next line. Lauren's mouth trembled. I wasn't waiting for. You were, I said. Not cruel. Certain. You were waiting for feedback. For them to tell you whether I was passing. She covered her face for a second, then dropped her hands and looked at me with wet eyes. I didn't think you'd just accept it. I stared at her. That's the whole point of your little test, right? You assumed I'd panic. I assumed you'd care. She snapped, then immediately looked guilty for snapping, like she'd already spent the whole evening trying to control what version of herself I saw. I do care, I said. That's why I'm paying attention. Her breathing hitched. I didn't sleep with him. I didn't react. I didn't even blink differently. I just watched her try to toss out a lifeline. That's your defense? I asked. That you stopped short of one line you don't want to cross out loud? She shook her head hard, tears slipping down. It was a message. Flirting. It was stupid. It didn't mean anything. I leaned forward slightly, not to intimidate her, but to make the point land. It meant you hid it, I said. It meant you let your friends into our marriage. It meant you sat across from me and tried to manipulate my emotions for a scoreboard. Lauren's voice cracked. I was scared. No, I said. You were bored. You were influenced. And you were comfortable lying because you thought I'd stay no matter what. That hit her harder than any yelling would've. Her lips parted. Her face folded in on itself. I love you, she said, like saying it should reset the night. I didn't move. Love isn't a test, I replied. And a marriage isn't content for your yoga group. Her phone buzzed again, insistent, like a child tugging a sleeve. Lauren didn't even look at it. She just whispered, please. I watched her for a moment, really watched. A woman crying because her game didn't produce devotion. Because the man she tried to corner didn't flinch. Then I said the line that made her stop breathing for a second. You wanted to see if I'd fight for you, I told her. All you proved is I don't trust you. I stood up and carried my plate to the sink like the dinner had ended normally. Lauren stayed at the table, staring at me with those wet eyes like tears were supposed to pull me back into position. "Where are you going?" she asked. I rinsed the plate, set it in the dishwasher, kept my hands busy because I didn't need them shaking, and I didn't need her thinking she'd caused a collapse. "Upstairs," I said. "To do what?" I dried my hands on a towel and looked at her. "Pack." Her face tightened like she'd been slapped. "So you're really doing this?" "You already did it," I said and walked out of the kitchen. The stairs creaked under my feet. Familiar sounds. Familiar house. The kind of place that should have felt safe. Instead it felt like a set after the actors left. Props still in place, meaning gone. In the bedroom, I pulled my duffel from the closet and laid it on the bed. I didn't rage. I didn't slam drawers. I started with basics. Clothes, toiletries, my work laptop, the documents I kept in a folder on the top shelf. Behind me, Lauren's footsteps hovered in the doorway. "You're not seriously leaving tonight," she said. I folded a shirt, smooth and tight. "Yes." "Over one stupid test?" Her voice rose on purpose, like volume could force me to argue. "Over some texts?" I didn't look up. "Over the fact you thought any of this was acceptable." She moved into the room closer now. "I told you I didn't sleep with him." I zipped a side pocket. "You keep saying that like it's a gift." Lauren's breath hitched. "I'm trying to fix this." "You're trying to stop the consequences," I said, and finally looked at her. "Those aren't the same thing." Her eyes flashed with anger, then fear. "You're just going to throw us away?" "There is no us if you need a group chat to decide whether I'm worth staying married to," I said. She stepped in front of the dresser, blocking a drawer like she could physically stop the decision. "Where are you even going?" "Ryan's," I said. "Spare room." That name hit her weird. Ryan Carter wasn't a threat. That was the point. Ryan was a stable place. Quiet couch. A man who didn't speak in motivational quotes. Lauren shook her head. "This is insane. You can't just." "I can," I said. "And I am." She swallowed hard, then tried a different angle, softer, pleading. "We can talk. We can go to counseling. I'll stop talking to Haley, I swear. I'll quit yoga if you want. I'll—" Her words piled up too fast, like she was shoving offerings onto a table to see what would buy her way out. I kept packing. She reached for my arm, fingers light, like she was testing whether touch still had power. I stepped away without drama. "Don't," I said. That one word landed harder than any shout. Her hand hung in the air, then dropped. "You're being cold," she whispered. I closed the duffel halfway and met her eyes. "No, I'm being clear." Lauren's face crumpled again. "Please, you're my husband." I nodded once. "That's why this matters." She wiped her cheeks, voice getting thin again. "It was just a stupid loyalty test. It didn't mean anything." I paused, not because I was wavering, but because I wanted her to hear the truth clean. "It meant you were willing to hurt me to see if I'd bleed right," I said. Lauren's lips parted. No answer. I finished packing, zipped the bag, and grabbed my jacket. As I walked past her, she followed, fast now, like she finally understood the night wasn't about convincing me to stay. It was about watching me leave. At the top of the stairs, she said, "What about your proof? What about Megan?" I glanced back. "You think I need to argue with you about what I've seen?" Her mouth opened and closed. I could see her mind working, trying to locate the version of me that would bargain. Downstairs, I picked up my keys from the bowl by the door. The house smelled like dinner and something sour underneath it. Lauren stood a few feet away, hands clasped like prayer. "Just tell me what you want," she said. "Tell me how to fix it." I put my hand on the doorknob and looked at her one last time. "I want a marriage that doesn't require tests," I said. "So this one's done." Then I opened the door and walked out, not to punish her, to prove I was finished negotiating with a lie. Ryan opened the door in sweatpants and an old hoodie, took one look at my face, and didn't ask for the story on the doorstep. "The spare room's ready," he said. "You want a beer?" "No," I replied. The water's fine. He nodded like that made sense, and that was why I trusted him. He didn't try to turn it into entertainment. The spare room smelled like clean sheets and gym detergent. I set my duffel on the bed, sat on the edge, and let the quiet hit. Then my phone started. Missed call, voicemail, text, another call, another text. Lauren's name over and over like volume could reverse time. I didn't respond. I didn't block her either. Not yet. I wanted everything recorded in one place. Every message, every attempt, every shift in tone. People got honest when they panicked. Ryan left me alone, the door half closed. A small mercy. I pulled up the screenshots Megan Price had shown me weeks earlier. Not the full thread. Megan hadn't wanted to be dragged into it, but enough to make the point unarguable. Lauren's boss. Friendly at first, then familiar, then private, then stupidly bold. There were lines that weren't "I love you," but didn't need to be. The kind of messages that only existed when boundaries were already gone. I stared at them until my eyes stopped wanting to flinch, and I replayed the last few weeks in my head. Not the test. Not tonight, but the quiet decisions I'd been making before this. The way Lauren had started guarding her phone like it was a second wedding ring. The sudden late meetings, the new perfume, the way she'd laugh at something on her screen and look up too slow, the way she'd bring up communication right after she'd been caught in a lie, like the word itself was supposed to erase it. I'd been measuring it, not with paranoia, just with a man's sense of when he's being played. Tonight didn't create the breakup. It just sped up the ending. My phone buzzed again. A text popped up. Lauren, please come home. We can talk. Then another. Seconds later. Lauren, Haley is freaking out. She didn't mean it like this. So that was still in motion too. The control room still trying to steer the narrative, still trying to reframe me as dramatic for not cooperating. I set the phone down and rubbed my hands together. Slow. The anger was there, but it wasn't wild. It was clean, focused. I opened the Notes app and typed out the timeline as I remembered it. Dates, times, what I knew, what I'd seen, what Megan had said, what Lauren had admitted tonight. I wasn't doing it to win. I was doing it because I was done being vague. Vague was how people got manipulated. Call came in again. I let it ring out. Then I listened to the first voicemail. Lauren cried, real crying, saying my name, saying she was sorry, saying she'd do anything. Then, half a second of another voice in the background, muffled and sharp. A woman, not Lauren, talking like she was directing. Haley, I thought, or someone like her. I deleted nothing. I saved everything. I sat there for a long time, staring at the wall, letting the truth settle in my chest like a weight that finally stopped shifting. Marriage wasn't something I could fix with a conversation. Fixing only worked when both people respected the thing they were fixing. Lauren didn't respect it. She tested it. She hid. She performed. And when it didn't go her way, she cried like the game was unfair. My phone buzzed again. More texts stacking up like debris. I didn't read them all. I opened one last message window and typed a single line. No lecture. No threats. No poetry. Get a lawyer. Monday morning I will too. I hit send. Then I put the phone face down on the nightstand and turned off the lamp, letting the room go dark. Not because I felt lost, because I finally felt done. My phone started up again the next morning before I'd finished coffee. Different numbers. Local. I stared at it for half a ring, then answered. Hello. A breath. Then a bright, practiced voice that tried to sound gentle. It's Haley. I didn't say her name back. I didn't give her the comfort of familiarity. She rushed in before I could respond, like she'd rehearsed this too. Okay, so listen. I need to explain. Last night got out of hand. I leaned back in Ryan's kitchen chair, eyes on the window. Gray sky, quiet street, normal world. You called to explain, I said. Go ahead. Haley made a small wounded sound, like I'd already offended her. We weren't trying to hurt anyone. It was supposed to be a relationship exercise. An exercise, I repeated. Yes, she said quickly. Like, Sometimes men get complacent, and women need reassurance. And Lauren's been feeling insecure and... Stop, I said. Silence. When she spoke again, her tone shifted. Less airy, more careful. Excuse me? I said stop. I repeated calm. Don't talk about men like you're teaching a class. Talk about what you did. Haley inhaled. I was trying to help my friend. You turned my marriage into a test, I said. You sat there messaging her while she told me she wanted a divorce. That's not. It is. I cut in. Her phone didn't stop buzzing. She kept looking down like she was waiting for permission. Haley's voice sharpened. Lauren made her own choices. That's the first true thing you've said, I replied. So don't call me to sell good intentions. She tried another angle, softer again. I feel terrible. I do. But you have to understand. She loves you. She was just scared you wouldn't fight for her. I let the quiet stretch until she couldn't stand it. Do you hear yourself? I asked. Haley hesitated. You're saying you wanted me to perform, I said. You wanted me upset so you could call it love. You wanted me desperate so she could feel wanted. That's not fair, Haley snapped. I didn't flinch. Fair doesn't enter it. You played with someone else's marriage like it was content. She went quiet again. In the background, I heard faint voices. Other women, muffled. That told me everything. She wasn't alone. A whole little committee. Are you on speaker? I asked. Paused too long. No. Lie better, I said. Or don't lie at all. Haley's voice dropped, now fully defensive. Okay, wow. So you're just going to punish her? Over a mistake. I'm not punishing anyone, I said. I'm leaving. That's punishment. No, I replied. It's a consequence. She started to protest, and I cut her off with the only point that mattered. You don't get to touch the stove and then lecture the fire, I said. You lit the match. Now you're scared of what burns. Haley breathed like she wanted to cry or scream, but either one would have been a performance. So she went with guilt. Please, she said, just talk to Lauren. She's a mess. I looked down at my phone, thumb hovering over the end call button. You should have thought about that before you coached her to say divorce over dinner, I replied. Don't call me again. I hung up. 2 minutes later, another number rang. Then another. Then a text from someone I didn't have saved. This is all a misunderstanding. Can we talk? Then, Lauren is hurting. Please don't do anything rash. I stared at the screen, feeling nothing but a clean kind of disgust. They weren't sorry they did it. They were sorry it didn't work. I blocked the first number, then the second, then every new call that came through one by one, until the phone finally went quiet. Ryan walked in, took one look at my face, and nodded like he understood without needing details. You good? He asked. I set the phone down. I'm clear, I said, and that was better than good. I pulled into the driveway mid-morning with an empty trunk and a quiet mind. The front door opened before I reached it. Janet Mitchell stood in the entryway with her arms folded, dressed like she'd come from church or court. Clean blouse, tight mouth, eyes already loaded with judgment. Lauren was behind her, pale, swollen-eyed, holding herself like she'd been bracing for impact. Janet didn't say hello. So, she said, voice clipped, you're really doing this. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. Calm. No swagger. No apology. I'm here for my things, I said. Janet's eyes narrowed. Lauren told me you're abandoning your marriage because of some misunderstanding. Lauren flinched at the word misunderstanding. She didn't correct it. I nodded once. It's not a misunderstanding. Janet lifted her chin. Marriages hit rough patches. Adults don't run. I looked past her at the stairs, already mapping what I needed first. Adults also don't run tests and hide inappropriate messages. Janet's face tightened. Inappropriate messages? Lauren's eyes darted to her mother, then back to me, silent warning. Don't. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Janet, I said. Your daughter sat across from me, and announced a divorce while her phone buzzed nonstop with her friends feeding her lines. That was the warm-up. Janet turned slightly toward Lauren. Lauren? Lauren's mouth opened, then closed. Her silence was louder than any confession. I picked up a box I'd brought in and walked toward the living room shelves where some of my things were already stacked. Moving while I talked, keeping the point where it belonged. Leaving. And the messages? Janet pressed, trying to regain control. What messages? I set a few items into the box, slow, careful, then looked at her. One line, I said. From him. Lauren went rigid. Janet's brows pulled together. From who? Her boss, I replied. He wrote, "Don't wear that to the office unless you want me distracted all day." Janet blinked like she hadn't heard correctly. Lauren's face went gray. That's a lie, Janet said automatically, but the word had no weight behind it. Lauren didn't deny it. She couldn't. Her throat worked like she was swallowing glass. I taped the box shut with one clean pull. Janet's voice softened, confused now. Lauren? Lauren stared at the floor. I lifted the box and walked toward the door. I'm not here to argue, I said. I'm here to exit. Janet stepped aside without meaning to, like her body understood before her pride did. Lauren followed me to the threshold, whispering, "Please." I didn't look back. I carried the box to my car, set it down gently, and went back for the next one. Steady, quiet, and done playing the villain in someone else's story. Attorney Daniel Cook's office smelled like paper and coffee. He read my notes, scanned the screenshots, and didn't flinch. "This is straightforward," he said. "We'll file. We'll keep it clean." "Good," I replied. "Clean is the goal." Lauren got served 2 days later. She called immediately, rage first, then tears, then the same tired accusation. "So you want drama," she said. I stood in my new apartment, one folding chair in the living room, no pictures on the walls yet. Peaceful. "No," I said. "I want an ending. You're doing this to punish me." "You punished us," I replied. "I'm just finishing what you started." Work didn't stay quiet. People always sniff out disruption. HR got involved. Professional boundaries. Conflict of interest. Appropriate communications. There were closed-door meetings. Schedule changes. A transfer whispered about like it was a weather system rolling in. Lauren tried to control the story outside the office too. Some friends unfollowed me. Others watched silently. The yoga group went from bold to invisible. A week after I moved out, Janet called. Her tone was different, less referee, more tired mother. "I didn't know," she said, and the pause after it was heavy. "I'm sorry." "I know," I told her. "That's why I didn't yell." The divorce finalized without fireworks. No big speech. No victory lap. Just signatures and a judge who'd seen 1,000 versions of the same collapse. Afterward, I built a routine like a fence. Gym before work, quiet dinners, weekends with Ryan, phone on Do Not Disturb at night. I stopped explaining myself to people who didn't deserve a vote. I wasn't healing from losing a marriage. I was breathing for the first time without it.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.